Hi, and welcome to PowerViews. I'm Dan McDade, your host and president of PointClear. My guest today is James Obermayer. Jim is CEO and co-founder of Sales Lead Management Association and president of Sales Leakage Consulting, Inc. In addition to an active website, SLMA annually awards the top 50 most influential people in sales lead management and 20 women to watch, and you can visit Sales Lead Management Associations to see the list of winners. Jim, welcome to PowerViews.
Thank you very much, Dan. Nice to be here today, as always.
Well, good to see you again. I know that you recently announced the October 21 to 25 6th Annual Sales Lead Management Week, and you were quoted in the announcement, and I'll just read it here. We know that sales leads are the lifeblood of most organizations, yet in spite of billions of dollars spent on lead generation, lead follow-up is in the low double digits, if that. And this is what Sales Lead Management Week is all about, bringing attention to the massive management failure that wastes B2B and B2C company resources. So why don't we start with you telling me a little bit more, or telling the audience a little bit more about the event and your goals this year.
Well, it's a virtual event. We really have relied on people to pick it up, people like yourself, to pick it up and use it for subjects for their webinars, articles, etc. This year we are planning on having several webinar events with database managers and interviews during that week, which in the past we haven't. We've allowed people to do their own things, and they've used it as a good excuse to bring to the attention of the general B2B and B2C public sales lead management as a subject. So this year we will be doing several webinars, though.
Okay, well, great. Tell me a little bit more about what's going on at SLMA. I know that you mentioned, I think, did you say it was in the email correspondence, it was October the 1st when you're going to announce the top 50 again?
Well, right. Starting October 1st, there'll be a press release out, and that's the nomination period, and members of the SLMA can nominate anyone they think is worthy to be recognized in the field of sales lead management. We usually get 75 to 100 people that are nominated, someplace in that range, and then 50 people starting November 1st. There's a vote, and people can vote who they think are the most influential people, and the list usually changes 25 to 40% at a given year, and I know you've been on it several years. I hope you're again this year. But people really give us their opinions and vote. We usually get anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 votes, 6,000 to 7,000 votes, and then we just award the top 50. And if there's a tie, and there has been in the past, for the 50th, we may have the 51st. So it's certainly bragging rights for the people on that level, and that they can talk about how they've gotten elected by their peers to the 50 most influential. Now, January 1st, by the way, there will be an announcement around December 5th or so for the winners. So that will go out. So October 1st to the end of October for the nomination, month of November for voting, and then winners announced in December and then put up on the website. January 1st, we start the program for the 20 most influential 20 women to watch in sales lead management, and this is not a vote. We get 35, 40 women that are nominated every year, and we look at their resumes and what people have said about them, and sometimes they're writers and speakers, and sometimes they're just really good marketers. I really had the opinion, once a month we have Susan Finch, our web director, does an interview on SLMA Radio about women in management, and so we like to bring attention. It's quite interesting. You look at all the marketing automation companies, CRM companies, and you look at all the management staff. The management staff is 95% men, and then there's an HR person. It's a woman, someplace in there. And yet you go out, and who are the marketers in this industry? It's probably 80% are women running most of so many of these programs. They're heads of marketing, and they're directors of marketing communication managers and heads of digital marketing and lead management. And it's just amazing they don't get they don't get the credit. And even the people that apply every year for the 20 women to watch, women just don't brag. It's quite interesting. They'll wait for someone else to nominate them and what have you. But I'm always amazed at the difference between men and women, which could be why there aren't more women in the executive suite. They just don't take credit for their accomplishments.
Yeah, that is interesting. I know we've talked about that in the past. Going back just a minute to your quote, I was talking to Ardith Albee yesterday on another PowerViews, and we were talking a little bit about this issue of sales rep follow-up on leads. I know it's not a simple answer, but why do you think salespeople don't follow up on leads? What do you think the reasons for that are?
Well, there's several reasons. As both a marketing communications manager years ago, a marketing manager, sales manager for many years, it's both the attitude within the company that allows this behavior to continue. If you don't allow it, it won't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it really comes back to the leadership in the company. If the sales manager and the marketing manager allow it to happen, then they won't have the follow-up, which means it'll go back to the national average of 10% follow-up on inquiries, 25 at the best. And, my theories and the research we've done through the books we've written and what have you, that 45% of all the people who inquire will buy someone's product. Not qualified leads, that who inquire will buy someone's product within a year. So if salespeople only do 25% follow-up, they're only talking to 25% of the buyers. And hence, that's why so many people fail. But it really comes back to the sales manager. If the sales manager said, you will follow up 100% of all the inquiries that I give you, it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't, it doesn't happen.
Well, and there's one case that I think we may have talked about before. I've certainly written enough about it, but a very large client, one of the largest software companies in the world, generated 9,000 leads, and of those 6,000 came from one source. And as it turns out, 1.28% of those leads were actually qualified opportunities, and the rest were, really just not even worth following up on. And it's going to be rare that you're going to get a sales force that's going to follow up on 100 so-called leads, in order to find one potential opportunity. I think that's the other side of it is that, with inbound marketing and marketing automation, we're able to get, many more poorly qualified opportunity to sales, faster than ever before. And I think that, that's the other reason why the lead follow-up is so bad. Do you see that in the companies that you consult with, Jim?
To a certain extent, yes. You're right. It's not very difficult at all to get a lot of unqualified borrowed interest inquiries in. But I assume that sales and marketing management doesn't want those either. It usually doesn't last for very long. If it lasts for 6 months and everybody gets upset about it, then it usually goes away and someone does something about it. It's this borrowed interest stuff. You do a direct mail piece and you get a 10% response, everybody's happy, but there's going to be the same number of buyers there would have been in there to begin with if you didn't use borrowed interest. And the internet, the same thing. I have seen there's a lot of people that run so many videos and so many content. The content is great, but are they even getting the person's name? Are they even getting their profile? Giving the person the chance to opt out and not be called by a sales rep. You're right. I think 45% is an accurate number if they're genuine inquiries and not just a bunch of ash and trash created by marketing because they can.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as you look forward to, unbelievably, we're winding this year down. We're in the final third. It's rapidly coming to an end, and we're going to be in 2014. So in addition to lead follow-up, as you look at making recommendations to senior executives in sales and marketing in companies, what else should they be looking at here over the next year?
We've got to look at lead management as an overall subject that everybody has to tackle within the company. This isn't just a marketing manager's issue, and it's not a sales manager's issue. It's leads and the creation of inquiries have touched more agencies than ever before because there are more agencies involved, by digital agencies as well as branding agencies and direct marketing agencies, et cetera, et cetera. There's more software programs out there. It's confusing for the average marketer. Last I checked, only about 20% of the companies had, let's be level, 25% have a marketing automation. But even Marketo and others don't really admit to that. They say it's less than 20% generally, coming on strongly every year. But marketing automation in the hands of a fool is still a fool's tool. You just don't get Did you like that quote, Dan? You didn't.
I love that. Yeah. I was riveted by the content.
But if you don't look at this as a tool to create qualified inquiries, the whole inquiry process, the problem with it is it touches about 6 different departments within the company, and everybody takes their little piece out of it or ignores it. And the salespeople are the one that pay the price, and the marketing pays the price because they can't prove the return on investment. Don't you think that telemarketing services and out there are getting more business because of the need to qualify these large quantities of inquiries? And or from your perspective, the telesales departments, what do you think is happening? Is this going up, or is it receding as a choice?
Well, remarkably, in the case that I mentioned, the marketing department's solution to the problem of only 1.28% being qualified is they said, well, we just can't afford to qualify them anymore, so we're just going to dump them directly on sales. And then in that particular case, I happen to know the VP of sales very well. He is here in Atlanta, and he said, I'm not surprised. He said, because, basically they get comped on quantity of leads, and of course I need a quality of leads, so basically most of those leads are ignored. I think the other thing that's happening, and it's very cyclical, is that really 2 things. One, sales has more power than ever, and so they're making a lot more of the decisions. Mm-hmm. And that sales is desiring, and in many cases being successful in basically taking on the inside sales function. And one of the reasons that they want to do that is, of course, they want control, from a personality standpoint, but secondly, they view an inside sales team as kind of a training ground for future salespeople. I always tell people to be cautious about that, because the personality of an inside salesperson is so different than a field salesperson that, it's very unlikely that anybody that would be really good in field sales would even last in inside sales. It's just 2 totally different personalities. Right. But so as a result, I think there's a lot of grayness out there. Again, I was talking to Art Thalby about this yesterday, and she said she has a sense of things changing where, okay, we've been at this now for 5 years. In a HubSpot report that I read yesterday on this, the state of inbound marketing, they said that, one of the biggest challenges is that marketing executives can't actually measure the ROI from these investments in inbound, including marketing automation. So I think that, what typically happens is at the end of a 10-year cycle is that that sales will have centralized and then decentralized sales support. Then they'll give it back to marketing. It'll become centralized again. And then hopefully this time around, there'll be some discussions between marketing and sales on what the definition of a lead is, as an example, and what the process is to follow up on leads, so that there is accountability, what I call a judicial branch in between marketing and sales that looks at every lead that isn't followed up or is rejected for some reason to say, should it have been, and what can we do to tighten up this process? And I think that would be a healthy thing to have happen in companies, is to, really get a handle on this piece, because there's just such a leakage between marketing and sales on leads. So companies are just spending a mint generating leads that really don't go anywhere. And
well, Dan, I'll ask the question that we raised in your blog. Should the marketing management staff be paid on performance, on revenue, and on qualified leads? If you go from quantity to quality, it's easy to do quantity. Any fool can do quantity. You can flood people, and everybody sits back. But the marketing manager that does is taking their life in their own hands, because they're going to be fired eventually if they keep it up. But if you say, look, you're going to get paid on the qualified leads, or paid on the revenue in the company that turns into sale from the initial inquiry that was created. And it may not be their entire, obviously, these people don't take these jobs for 50% incentive, but if they got paid 10% of their incentive a year based on the sales return on investment from their marketing investments that turned into a sale. Now, they'll complain that they'll say, well, this is totally out of my control. Salespeople aren't following up. Precisely. Then how do you make sure that they get followed up? But marketing has a lot of the functions today of follow-up. They've assumed the follow-up functions, which we didn't cover a little while ago. They assumed the follow-up functions that sales wasn't taking on. So should marketing people be paid on revenue and on qualified lead revenue, and should they assume many of the follow-up functions? What do you think?
I think that I've changed my mind on this over the last year or so. I think that it's absolutely going to be essential for marketing to be measured on the end result or revenue. However, if I was a marketing VP, in a company, and I was being asked, probably what I would do is I would actually lead the charge for that to happen. But I would say that has to come along with very specific metrics and measurements. And the very first of those is that if a lead is turned over to sales, it has to either be accepted or rejected within 48 hours. And if it's not accepted or rejected, then this same judicial branch that's really cross-departmental should look at each and every incidence of that and see, what's really going on. Is it a lead definition problem? Is it simply a traction problem? If a sales rep says, I called them twice and they didn't call me back, so it must not have been a good lead, which is what happens in companies a lot, then, that's obviously not a good excuse. So what is appropriate follow-up? And then I don't think that there's good visibility. There's another, that's according to Serious Decisions called marketing lead purgatory. I also think there's the sales lead purgatory, which is after it gets into the sales hands, between a sales accepted lead and a sales qualified lead, there's a lot of leakage there. And I think the reason for that is that there's unrealistic expectations put on salespeople about the percent of leads that should close. So if you ask the average salesperson what percentage of a qualified lead would you close, they would say 60-80%. The reality is it's substantially less than that for a number of reasons. If the average company closes 20% and the best-in-class companies close closer to 30%, most sales reps are not willing to sign up for failing, 4 out of 5 times. So they don't even accept the lead, and they don't provide the company with any visibility into leads. So again, if I was the marketing VP or CMO, and I would be saying, hey, I want a piece of the action on revenue, but it has to come with rules of engagement that actually work. And I think that that's where it's going to fall apart, because I don't think sales wants that level of scrutiny. And I think it's going to come, as you said earlier in this conversation, you said it's really a matter of leadership. My favorite expression is nobody ever built a statue to a committee, and it's not going to be up to a bunch of individual contributors to work this out. The C-level executive is going, or the senior VP of sales and marketing is going to have to say, this is going to stop. Here's how this is going to work in the future. You're either on the bus or off the bus, but this is how we're going to do it. And there are a lot of examples of companies that have done that, and they've been very successful. So long answer to a short question, but I do agree that at least a portion of marketing compensation should be based on the company's results, not just based on the quantity of leads.
Well, it's been said that only people who think change their minds. So I'm glad to see that you came around, Dan. It's probably the future. It's probably the only way that we're going to change some of these attitudes in the company. Also, if the head of sales is also the head of marketing, and maybe the CMO reports to that person, then they can certainly get on the same wavelength together. When I've seen that happen, it works extremely well. And I've gone into companies that have been total failures. They've gone through Salesforce once or twice, and they've tried other companies and marketing automation. And as soon as they get on this setting up the CRM system properly for qualified leads, and as soon as they have the marketing automation system tuned up to create qualified leads and get profiles filled out, and then as soon as the leads are followed up properly, either through a telemarketing service or inside sales service, all kinds of wonderful things start to happen. Salespeople follow everything up. Marketing and sales are working together. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It's utopia.
It's utopia, right.
Well, Jim, how can folks reach out to Sales Lead Management Association and or Sales Leakage Consulting?
Well, the Sales Lead Management Association, you can just go to www.theslma.com. And by the way, I've got that new formula up on the site. People can put in their lead numbers, and they can see what the sales results will be.
I saw that ROI calculator when I was out there just the other day. Yeah,
right. And I'm going to have some more of those in the next few weeks. So www.theslma.com, and it's J. Obermayer, Obermayer @ Sales Lead, MGMTASSN.com. And sales leakage has been around for 15 years. I do sales leakage reviews for corporations, and I really, it is morphed very much into an interim sales management role, which really keeps me in touch with the industry. So thank you very much for the opportunity to reach out today. And I love your blog. I like contributing to it. And hey, you got an award the other day, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I got a couple of awards recently, which we appreciate.
And what were the awards? Come on, let's not be too modest.
No. This is about you, Jim. This is not about me. But the one thing we do also have out there right now, I don't know if you've seen the one we released this week, is called a Power Minute. And this week's Power Minute is about whether or not you should leave a voicemail. And if you should leave a voicemail, which I suggest that you should, what are the exact steps in leaving the voicemail. So we've gotten some good feedback on that.
Good. I look forward to it. I'll check it out. I'm getting on a plane in about an hour and a half, so thank you very much for the opportunity, Dan.
Hey, listen, it's been great being with you today, and so thanks so much for taking time to join us. And for now, this is Dan McDade signing off on another edition of PowerViews. Thank you for watching.